think Western society robs us of today. Like, we are obsessed with productivity and tomorrow's version of you is better. Hey there, my handsome and pretty little Cobras, and welcome back to the Cobra's Nest. For those of you who are new, my name is Mignon Cobra and I make minimalism videos. So today's minimalism video is going to be super on brand. Today's video is be less, do less. You guys have been loving these more extreme minimalism content. This video doesn't have any fancy B-roll. A lot of you mentioned you guys do like this more simplistic podcast style way of filming where it's just me talking and you guys just let it play while you're like washing dishes, doing laundry, which is kind of how I like to use these. So I'm glad that that's something that's working in you guys' lives. Glad to hear that. So I got 4 things that I want to talk about in this topic of be less, do less. I think a lot of you are kind of on your own hardcore minimalism journey, and I wanted to share some of my insight of somebody who used to be an extreme minimalist but no longer is. So I feel like I can offer this advice in like a healthy retrospective manner instead of somebody who's still like balls deep in the lifestyle and is like offering like unrealistic life tips. This is kind of like what worked, what I think had value, and what I think is like if you must go down that road, do it, but you're not in for a fun time. Anyway, let's get right into the video. Let's get it. Let's go. Okay, so coming in at number 1, appreciate who you are today. I love that one. I think it's almost kind of overdone in the minimalism community though. Like, I'll be completely honest. I got to the point where I got sick and tired of hearing this mantra. It's like, appreciate who you are today. And like, it's true. I think the reason I'm not that crazy about offering this piece of tip or advice is because it kind of like robs you of the ability to self-improve. I do think it is really good to appreciate who you are, but at the same time, find that nuance of kind of like still striving for better. But let's come back to it. In extreme minimalism, one of the things that I really did appreciate is that except for that, in extreme minimalism, that narrative of like appreciate who you are today was very rare for me to find. Like, I've really only seen that in minimalism. If it wasn't for minimalism, I think I'd be super obsessed with like becoming that girl. Like, tomorrow's Nat was always going to be better than current Nat, and that robbed me of today. So I do think there's a little bit of a balance. But if no one's ever told you before, or if you are new to minimalism, the notion that appreciate who you are today is very beautiful, because I think Western society robs us of today. Like, we are obsessed with productivity and tomorrow's version of you is better. Who you are today is not enough, is never good enough. And I think that that is extremely toxic, because there's been plenty of times, and I'm sure you can agree with me, where you've looked back at photos and you're like, there was nothing wrong with me. Why couldn't I have been happy? So something that I can share is that like, I'm very happy with who I am today. I still strive to self-improve, but at the same time, who I am right now, she's a work of art. Like, it's still a work in progress, but she's still a work of art. Like, there's that like that nuance there. And I do appreciate who I am today, especially because once you hit your 30s, you kind of realize you're not going to live forever. You're not going to be this young ever again. So it's like, why don't you just enjoy it? Like, it's weird. In my extreme minimalism, one of the best things that I learned is that I pretend I'm 60 and I came back in time and I'm back to being 30-year-old Nat. And it's beautiful because I can think about what it'd be like when I was old and now I'm finally young again. And that has really taught me to appreciate who I am today, because I will never be this young ever again. I don't rob myself of who I am today, because I know what awaits me in the future is not as young or as vibrant as I am today. So hopefully in the future I can appreciate that who I was today was fully enjoyed. Okay, coming in at number 2, let go of your ego. If you are on an extreme minimalism journey, I think this is a great tip. If you're kind of sick of hearing this, then just go beyond this tip. But if you're new to minimalism, I think, especially because it's not really common, especially if you're not Buddhistic, but letting go of the ego. So what does that mean? Letting go of the ego means letting go of who you think you should be, or who society tells you should be, or where you derive a lot of your self-confidence, and to let it go and realize that that is just a mask, and your externals, all your accolades and all of that isn't actually you. That's actually just a mask, and you are still you, even with or without those accomplishments. I know that is very abstract, very deep, and I partially don't even really agree with this narrative, to be completely honest. But if you've never stripped your ego, I think it is a great practice. I think it is a really good practice to detach your self-worth from external things. That is definitely a very Buddhistic practice, maybe not necessarily a minimalistic practice, although minimalism, Buddhism do have a lot of overlap. But if you have not let go of your ego, or at the very least figured out a way to internalize your self-worth and to not tie it to material possessions or external possessions, that's something I can definitely recommend you to do. Figure out, how can I love myself and value myself without tying it to the car that I drive, the house that I live in, the clothes that I wear, the friends that I have, the family name that I have, the person that I married, the job that I have. Like, all of those things we think are us, but they're actually not. And I say this because I definitely have fallen into the trap, and it's actually something I still struggle with. I think it could just be a Western thing, a Western concept, a Western construct, where I still do derive a lot of my value in that. But it is a very good Buddhistic practice, or even just a good minimalist practice, figuring out that you are not that. And I think the best way to illustrate that is, or at least a way that I have figured out that to be true, is that I still felt banging. I still felt like a 10 out of 10 when I stopped wearing logos. I thought that if I didn't rep logos, then I didn't have worth. But the stealth wealth movement has proven that people still think people still have value regardless of the logos that they wear. So if you can understand logos as an abstract concept for the bigger concepts, you can still understand that in that same way. Like, you still have inherent value regardless of those external metrics that society tell you need to have in order to be of value. Just like we think monks are very valuable. They don't have a lot of the markers that we associate with success. We consider them to be very enlightened. So I think that if you can understand that, hopefully you can understand that you have inherent value, or at the very least to find peace in loving yourself without all of those external accolades. Okay, coming in at number 3, embrace your fantasy self. And I know this is extremely contradictory to the previous point of letting go of your ego, but one of the things that I like about minimalism is that minimalism exists in a dichotomy. It's not one or the other. I didn't used to understand that when I was a minimalist. I was very hardcore in my ideology. It had to be X and it had to be Y, and it could not be both. I realize now that we just live in a dichotomy. It can be both A and B at the same time. So I think one of the beautiful things about minimalism is finally giving yourself the permission to, ironically, take up space, and also to embrace your fantasy self. And what your fantasy self may be is obviously going to look different for everyone. That's something you gotta like soul search and look inside and figure out who that is. So I'll give you guys an example of myself. When I first started minimalism 10 years ago, a common minimalism ideology for women was to not wear makeup and to have short hair. And I just remember thinking to myself, can't I be a minimalist who wears makeup and has long hair? Like, that would be really nice. Like, can we like make like a little trade? Like, I'll give up other stuff, but could I still keep that? So yeah, in the beginning it was really rough having a minimalism channel while I still wore makeup. But I just figured I'm just gonna have to fight this out. And I used to always say on my channel, like, I am the black sheep of minimalism because I still wear makeup. Because a lot of women, and I think this is obviously generational, for a lot of women who came before me as minimalists, they found a lot of freedom in no longer needing to wear makeup. So by the time I came around, I was like, but I still want to wear makeup. Y'all are not even wearing any makeup. Can I still be a minimalist and wear makeup? So I think that figuring out who your fantasy self is and standing by that is going to be really important, because you're definitely going to ruffle some feathers in different communities that you stand in. Like, if you are part of regular society, not wearing makeup makes you a weirdo, but in the minimalism community, like, still wearing makeup makes you a weirdo. So at some point or other, you're just gonna have to live for yourself. And I think that that is embracing your fantasy self, is kind of figuring out, like, what is your best life? Like, what's that stuff that, like, sparks you inside and, like, makes you happy? And you'll always find that, like, you are never gonna satisfy everybody else. Like, one person's gonna say one thing, another person's gonna say another thing. So at some point, you just, like, need to shut out the noise and figure out what your fantasy self is. And I use the word fantasy self in the sense of, like, your best life. Obviously, fantasy self is usually used to illustrate a person who rides yachts and has high heels and wears a tight little dress as this ideology of, like, your fantasy self. But I'm using it in the vague sense of, like, living your best life. So it's like, if you could wave a magic wand and live your best life, what would it be? I think that that is what you want to work towards with your minimalism. Strip away what doesn't work and keep what does. Okay, coming in at number 4, eat the cherry. So this is a koan. I have mentioned in one of my other koan videos. I have the full story of it, but the gist is, when the monk realized the tiger was at the top of the cliff and at the bottom of the cliff and he wasn't going to survive, he still turned around and was able to enjoy eating the cherry that grew beside him, or strawberry beside him, that grew on the side of the cliff. And I think that that is something that is part of be less, do less. Our society, or at the very least our Western society, puts a really big emphasis on this hyper productivity and be more, do more, you know, like this dramatization of almost like a cartoonish hero lifestyle that we must chase and follow, this Hollywoodification of our lives, when at the end of the day, I think that there's so much pleasure to be had in just eating the cherry. None of us are getting out of this alive, and if there are, they haven't come back to tell us what's on the other side. So since no one is gonna live forever and you can't take any of it with you, why don't we just learn and practice, you know, smelling the roses, stopping to smell the roses, or the metaphorical eat the cherry? Because at the end of the day, like, I guess like in a more practical note, you're not going to live forever. And once you accept your own mortality, it kind of frees you to live your life however you want. And I think somebody else who's done a really good job of saying or talking about this concept is actually Alex Hormozy. I know he may not be the most of popular and he is a little bit controversial, but I do like some of the things that he's said, because before, up until him, I think I'm the only person who has operated from the reverse bucket list. I think about my life as if I was already dead and I don't matter. And so I think about the few things I would like to accomplish in my life. And if I accomplish them, I could die happy. And I have accomplished a lot of my bucket list items that now, as morbid as it is, I'm just living out the rest of my days till I die, because I've accomplished the most important things. But those things wouldn't have happened if I had a bunch of bucket list items. It would just be never ending. I can't allocate the proper amount of resources to it. So you have to be picky and choosy about what's important in your life. I'm not saying you can't have it all. I'm sure you can have it all. Like, I'm sure you can figure it out. But I just had to, for me personally, I just thought on a more practical level, allocation of resources. I put at the priority the most important things, and then less important things would go down. Like, if I got to them, great. If I didn't, it didn't matter, because I allocated resources to the most important things. So I think it's the same thing for you, is to figure out, like, what are the most important things, and ruthlessly slash things that are not important. So to give you an example, most people around me, their bucket list items include having kids. I decided that is not important to me. So with that, and never having kids, I have freed up a lot of resources to allocate to more important things. What are more important to me? Being creative. I love filming and editing these videos. That is actually more important to me than having children. In my mind, I realized that if I didn't have children, I could keep doing the things that artistically fulfill me. Do some people think that that is a great trade-off? Probably not. I don't think a lot of people would agree with me. But that's kind of figuring out eating your cherry. That's something that fulfills me, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to live forever. And since I'm not going to live forever, I am very free to live my life however I want. So I hope that is not morbid and that doesn't make you feel like, oh my God, like, what is she talking about? But hopefully, by knowing that you're not going to live forever, you will have a little bit more permission in living your life as unconventionally as possible to live your best life, because you will realize you are free from others' restraints, constraints, because they're not living your life. You are. So I hope that you guys enjoyed Be Less, Do Less. I didn't really talk about, decluttering your material possessions, because that's not really the point of these videos anymore. I think you have all figured out to just like chuck things in a basket. Like, you don't need further instruction on that for me. But I thought we could do a little bit of like, a mental paradigm cleaning, and that's what these videos are for. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.